My name is Estelle Garner. I'm 78 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I found out I was dead. It happened on a Tuesday, the kind of ordinary morning where nothing is supposed to go wrong. I went to the post office to pick up a registered envelope, just like I had done every month for years. The clerk barely looked at me. She was chewing on a piece of gum and tapping her long pink nails on the keyboard. "Sorry, ma'am," she said, still staring at the screen, "but the system says the recipient is deceased." I blinked behind my glasses. "Excuse me?" Now she looked up, frowning slightly. "Estelle Garner, born August 12th, 1946. I nodded. She squinted at the monitor again. Status: deceased. Records updated 2 months ago. I stood there holding the little yellow slip in my hand like it meant something. My legs suddenly felt shaky. "I'm right here," I said, my voice small but firm. She hesitated, then finally slid the envelope across the counter. "I guess it's probably fine," she mumbled. "But you should really go to the benefits office and get this fixed. If they think you're dead, they'll stop sending these." Too late for that, I thought. The envelope had been rerouted and re-stamped several times. It looked worn, like it had taken the long way home. I stepped outside, the sun beating down on the concrete. Across the street, a school bus pulled up and kids poured out, shouting and laughing. None of them noticed me. I felt like a ghost. Someone had declared me dead. Not in a poetic sense. Not in the "we haven't heard from her in a while" kind of way, but officially, legally, on paper. And if they had done that, what else had they done? I clutched the envelope to my chest and walked home, slow but steady. Let the truth settle in my bones. Let the sting of it take hold. I wasn't just being forgotten. I was being erased. My little house on Maplewood Lane looked the same as always when I got back. Same peeling porch rail. Same broken step the landlord never fixed. Same windblown recycling bin still lying on its side. Nothing looked different, and yet everything had changed. I sat at the kitchen table, placed the envelope beside the kettle, and stared at it. The flap was already halfway unsealed. My hands shook as I tore it open. It wasn't a check. It was a letter from the Social Security Administration, but it wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to the estate of Estelle Garner. I read it slowly, each line sinking deeper. "We regret to inform you that benefits have been terminated effective March 1st due to notification of death. Should you wish to appeal this decision, please submit Form SA 571 along with certified proof of error." I stared at those words until they blurred. Someone had submitted a death certificate. That wasn't a clerical mistake. That wasn't a system glitch. Someone had declared me dead on purpose. I opened the drawer where I kept my records: birth certificate, insurance papers from when Sam passed, benefit statements from the last 3 years. All there, all in order. And yet somewhere in some government system I no longer existed. I reached for my phone. It was mostly silent these days. No one called much anymore. I was just about to set it down when it buzzed. Logan, my grandson. His voice was deeper than I remembered when he answered. "Grandma, I just found out I died," I said, trying to keep my tone even. He paused. "What?" "They told the government I'm dead. Someone submitted a certificate. I think your mother had something to do with it." More silence. Then he said, "I didn't know anything about that." I believed him, or I wanted to. But I didn't believe Rachel. Not for a second. I ended the call before he could say more. Then I pulled out my old address book, the one with the worn cover and fading ink. If someone wanted me gone that badly, they were about to find out just how alive I still was and how dangerous it is to underestimate a woman with nothing left to lose. The next morning, I called my neighbor Harold. He was retired, kind, and had helped fix my fence 2 summers ago. When he picked up, I asked plainly, "Can you come with me to the benefits office? I need a witness, just in case they don't believe I exist." He didn't hesitate. "Of course." The office was in a low concrete building near the strip mall, flickering fluorescent lights, chairs that made your back hurt, and the kind of waiting room air that smelled like hand sanitizer and quiet frustration. Harold sat beside me, flipping through a fishing magazine from 2019. When they called my number, I walked carefully to the counter. The woman behind it had sharp eyeliner and a badge that read Maya. She didn't look up. "What can I help you with today?" she asked, fingers already typing. "I need to correct a record," I said. "Someone filed a death certificate in my name. But as you can see, I'm still standing." That got her attention. She blinked and started typing again. "Name, Estelle Garner, August 12th, 1946. A pause. A crease formed between her eyebrows. "It says you were declared deceased on February 18th. The certificate is on file." I leaned in. "Who submitted it?" Maya frowned. "That usually isn't visible, but let me check." She turned the screen slightly away from me. That subtle angle told me enough. "I need to bring a supervisor," she said, standing quickly. "Please wait." Harold looked at me, quiet and steady. "You okay?" he asked. "No," I said, "but I will be." The supervisor was a silver-haired woman named Denise. Her tone was cool, practiced. "Mrs. Garner, we've reviewed your record." A family member submitted documents to the Department of Vital Records. The information was cross-referenced and accepted. "You mean you just believe them?" I said. "There was a signed certificate. That's what we go by." "I want to see it." "That's not standard procedure." "I'm not standard," I snapped. "I'm the one who's supposedly dead." Harold spoke up. "I've known her for 20 years. She's very much alive." Denise exhaled slowly. "You'll need to submit proof of life, ID, utility bill, affidavit. We'll start the review process, but it may take several weeks. And during that time, your benefits remain suspended, and the checks that were sent. Who cashed them?" She hesitated. "That's a separate investigation," she said. But in her eyes, I saw it. She knew something was off. And she knew someone had crossed a line. I left that building with the wind pressing against my coat, and something harder pressing inside my chest. This wasn't just a mistake. Someone had tried to erase me on paper, in the system, in every place where my name once meant something. When I got home, I went straight to the closet and pulled down the fireproof lockbox Sam used to keep our documents in. Inside, everything was still there. The deed to our old burial plots, our marriage license, copies of tax returns, and the will we updated back when Rachel still called every Sunday. Her name was all over it. So was Logan's. But my name was at the center of everything they'd taken. Tucked inside a labeled envelope, I found the form that sealed my fate, the power of attorney. I had signed it 3 years earlier after my hip surgery, when Rachel insisted it was only temporary. "Just until you're back on your feet, Mom," she said. I never revoked it. Stupid, or maybe just too trusting. And now she had used that signature to make decisions, as if I were already gone. The next day, I called Samuel Pierce, our old attorney. He handled our estate when Sam passed, and I still had his card tucked in a drawer under the phone book. To my surprise, he remembered me right away. "Estelle," he said, his voice warm. "It's been too long. What can I do for you?" I told him everything. Not the emotional parts, just the facts. He didn't flinch. He just asked, "Do you want to fight this?" "Yes," I said. "I want it reversed, and I want accountability." By the end of that call, we had a plan. Revoke the PO, file an affidavit of identity, initiate a review with the probate court, and notify every agency that had me listed as dead. It would take time, he warned. But it could be done. I wasn't doing this to make a point. I was doing it to reclaim my life. Because if someone like Rachel could make me disappear with a single form, then I owed it to myself and every woman like me to prove that our names still matter. The courthouse was colder than I remembered. Not the kind of cold that came from weather, but from walls that had seen too many stories like mine, filed away in boxes and forgotten. Samuel met me at the front steps. He had a folder under his arm, thick with papers. "We're ready," he said. I nodded, clutching my handbag a little tighter. Inside the hearing room were plain beige walls, plastic chairs, and a wooden table scarred by years of use. Across the aisle sat a woman from the county registrar's office. She wasn't my enemy, just the gatekeeper of a system that had failed me. The judge, a lean man with heavy eyelids and a surprisingly kind voice, scanned the file before him. "Mrs. Garner," he said, looking up. You've submitted proof of identity, an affidavit of physical presence, and live testimony. Frankly, this is the most thorough case of someone not being dead that I've ever reviewed." A soft chuckle passed through the room. Even the registrar cracked a smile. "I'd laugh," I said, standing slowly, "if it hadn't taken 8 weeks to convince people I still existed." The judge nodded solemnly. "This is disturbing." He turned to the registrar. "The original certificate?" She slid it across the table. "Filed by the informant Rachel Whitaker, citing her authority under power of attorney," Samuel added calmly, "which has now been revoked." The judge studied the paper for a moment, then looked back at me. "Would you like to make a statement, Miss Garner?" I took a breath. My daughter didn't declare me dead because I was sick. She didn't do it out of grief. She did it because I was inconvenient, because she wanted what I had while I was still alive. The room fell silent. She drained my accounts, moved my lease, transferred my utilities, and claimed my belongings. All without so much as a conversation. She didn't just file a document. She made a decision to erase me before my time. I paused, my knees aching, but my voice steady. "I'm not here to ask for sympathy. I'm here to get my name back." The judge tapped his pen against the folder. "Petition granted," he said clearly. "Let the record show Estelle Garner is legally alive. Status to be restored across all relevant agencies within 5 business days." He looked at me one more time. "Welcome back, Mrs. Garner." I sat down slow and deliberate. I didn't smile. I didn't cry, but I felt something shift. Not triumph, just confirmation that I was still here, and I was done waiting for anyone else to believe it. The court order arrived in the mail 2 days later, crisp and official, with the golden seal of the state embossed at the bottom. I placed it on the table and stared at it for a long time. I was real again. But what now? The phone rang. It was Logan. "Grandma," he said, his voice softer than usual, like he wasn't sure how I'd receive it. "Mom, she's upset. She says you went to court, that you're trying to ruin her." "I'm not trying," I replied. "I'm succeeding." Silence. Then, "Did she really do all of it?" "She filed my death," I said plainly. "She took the money, the accounts, the lease, everything." "I didn't know," he whispered. "She told me you didn't want to be bothered, that you were happier alone." I didn't answer. Some wounds aren't sharp. They are achy and quiet corners where trust used to live. Then he asked, "Can I come see you?" "Not yet," I said. "Give it time." Later that afternoon, I visited the bank. The manager, Richard Burney, stood up as I entered. "Mrs. Garner," he said, visibly nervous. "I'm so sorry about everything." "You approved the transfers," I said quietly. "You let someone else drain over $70,000 from my accounts." "We followed documentation," he stammered. "The death certificate, the PO." "Well, the PO is gone, and I want every cent traced, every transaction, every purchase, and I want a new account under a new name." He blinked. "A new name, not mine?" "I'm creating a trust for someone who never tried to take anything." I slid the paperwork across the desk. "Eloise Madden. She's a social work student, granddaughter of a friend. I've known her since she was born." "You're assigning her as beneficiary?" "Yes. And I want every future deposit, pension, retirement, whatever's left redirected to that trust. No joint access, no substitutions, no requests." He nodded quickly. "Understood. I used to come here once a month," I said, glancing toward the lobby. "I brought cookies sometimes. Rachel liked having her name on the statements." He didn't respond. "I gave too much," I continued. "And now I'm giving what's left to someone who never asked and never reached for what wasn't offered." He looked almost ashamed. "Is there anything else I can do?" he asked. "Call me when the paperwork is done," I said. "That'll be enough." Then I stood, picked up my bag, and walked out. Not because I was finished, but because I was finally done giving away pieces of myself to people who mistook my love for permission. The newspaper came on a Sunday, delivered by Harold, folded under his arm like something too hot to hold. "You're on the front page," he said. I was in the kitchen slicing apples. I wiped my hands and took the paper from him. There I was, a grainy photo of me stepping out of the courthouse, sunlight in my eyes, cardigan flapping in the breeze. Headline: Local woman declared dead by daughter fights back and wins. I read the first few lines out loud. Estelle Garner, 78, was legally declared deceased by her daughter earlier this year. She has since fought to reinstate her identity and is now pursuing charges. Harold sat at the table quiet. They called me, he said. The paper wanted a quote. I didn't ask if he gave one. Instead, I picked up the phone when it rang. A reporter named Gina was on the other end, gentle voice, carefully respectful. I was wondering if you'd speak on the record, she asked. No, I said, but I'll give you a message. She waited. Tell them I'm alive. Tell them silence isn't surrender. And tell them that some women grow sharper with age, not softer. She paused, then asked, May I print that? You already did, I said, and hung up. I didn't go public to be remembered. I didn't file charges for drama. I did it because Rachel crossed a line that should never be crossed. 2 weeks later, the envelope arrived. A letter from the district attorney's office. Rachel had been charged with 2 felonies and 1 misdemeanor, financial exploitation and identity fraud. She wouldn't go to prison. Not likely. But there'd be a record, and that was enough. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still, like something had been returned to its rightful place, and now I could breathe in the quiet again. That night, I wrote her a letter. I didn't send it, but I wrote it. You didn't just steal money, Rachel. You stole the shape of my life. You mistook love for weakness and silence for permission. And maybe I let you, but not anymore. You filed my death. But I'm the one who gets to decide when my story ends.
Not you.
And not a line on a form. The next morning, I went outside and sat on the front steps, watching the wind move gently through the trees. It smelled like damp earth and new beginnings. Logan came by in the afternoon. He didn't call first, just showed up holding a small box wrapped in brown paper. I went by your house a few weeks ago, he said. I didn't knock. I left this on the porch. I opened it slowly. Inside was a tiny ceramic frog, chipped and unevenly painted.
Familiar.
It had once lived on my kitchen windowsill. A silly thing, a school project from years ago. You used to say it was your good luck charm, he added quietly. I remember, I said. He sat across from me, his shoulders curved, eyes unsure.
I don't know what to say, he said.
I didn't know how deep it went. Mom said you were tired, that you didn't want company. She made it sound normal. I nodded, not in agreement, just an acknowledgement. I didn't think you were really gone, he said. But I didn't ask either. You can't fix it, I said gently. But you can stop pretending it didn't happen. He swallowed hard. Do you hate her?
I don't know, I said.
I used to love her so much I couldn't see who she was becoming. Now I see it clearly, and I'm not sure what's left. He looked down at his shoes. I want to keep seeing you, even if it's not the same. We'll see, I said, placing the frog on the windowsill. I wasn't making promises, but I wasn't closing the door either. Later that evening, I opened the old black notebook I'd started when all of this began. On the first page were 3 lines I'd written months ago. I am alive. Not alive. Someone is lying. I will not be erased. I added one more.
They were wrong about me.
And I believed it now more than ever. Not because someone else said it, but because I'd lived it. Because I was still here, and I wasn't going anywhere. If you're still listening and this story stirred something in you, maybe anger, maybe recognition, maybe the quiet ache and dismiss, then hear this. Don't wait to be saved. Start asking questions. Start writing things down. Start taking back what's yours piece by piece. They may try to write you out of the story, but you get to write back. And if this meant something to you, leave a comment. Share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Not for me, but for the next woman they tried to erase and forget. She was a fighter all along.